Spending an extra $5,000 per door, does that give you another $100 or $200 a month in rent or not? I think it goes back to there's only so much a tenant is going to pay in a certain area. I think that's hard to tell. You know, people get into the value add apartment business, right? They're going to gut an apartment, and that's, you know, in a way that's a build for rent, right? You're just repositioning it. But how do you tell?
It's area specific.
Yeah.
And it's picking the brains and the minds of property managers, having a good property manager to say, okay, what are you seeing here? What are the tenants? What are they expecting? What are they used to seeing? What are they wanting to see in these units to get at least up ASAP? And are they willing to pay X amount for this or that?
With the housing shortage being the way it is, it's never been more important for builders and developers and investors to bring more inventory to the market. And we're here to explore that space and bring to bear our experience in helping develop over 4,000 units over 4 different states. I've got Chase Levitt and Sherida Zanger here with me to help talk a little bit about floor plans, another really important topic. But before we get into that, remember to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify and follow us on social media. We've got social media pages, so you can get your nerd out on Build for Rent. We'll have plenty of that stuff coming for you. So you're thinking about building a property. You want to build a house, an apartment complex, a gigantic, institutional style build for rent community. Whatever one of these that you're considering, the actual floor plan of your units is going to be really important. We know all about building too much or too little or too efficient of a floor plan. I would add, there's a concept when you're designing, when you're doing your architecture called value engineering, right? We want to design this unit structurally so that it's as cheap as possible to build. We want to make it a part of this show where we own our mistakes. I think we've got a couple of units that have been over value engineered. Probably a way for the layman to understand that is it looks like a military barracks. So what would make you go from, how do we go from this is a nice, cozy place to live, it's custom designed, to military barracks? We got to be somewhere in the middle. What do you think about that?
So I want to back it up just a little bit. My first thought when we're talking about, I guess, floor plans, upgrades, what we're going to be talking about today is, what will the city allow, right? Isn't that maybe your starting point?
It has to be.
Right? And so obviously, if you're trying to make as much money as you can, you're probably going to want to get the most density as possible, usually. But you might be just beating your head against the wall if the city doesn't want that or if it doesn't make sense. So understanding the location of the piece of dirt that maybe you found that you're trying to develop or put a project together, and then talking with the city, seeing what their overall general or master plan is and seeing if it makes sense. So you're not just wasting their time or your time.
And I think also be open to doing different kinds of product type within a specific location, right? So maybe you say, okay, I can do some townhomes, I can do some single family, I need to do some stacked flat type of product. So being open to that to get the density that you need, maybe that the city wants.
Yeah, because you do cross a line. Just because the city wants it or allows it doesn't mean that it's profitable or it's what the market needs. I mean, we're giving the city far too much credit there.
Yeah.
Right? The more you farm a specific area, the more you're going to realize that there's some cities that are friendly to what you're trying to do and others that it's just a hard stop. You're not going to get anywhere. We had to let one go in Caldwell, Idaho this last week where they are just not going to give us the density that they need or that we need. We can only get quarter-acre lots out of that. There's not a chance that that kind of density is ever going to come even close to working on a build-for-rent product. So James, our lead developer on it, he's just going to spin it off to a home builder. That deal's far more appropriate for a home builder than it is for a build-for-rent project. So to Chase's point, are you going to be able to get the density that you need? I've got one that we're working on right now where to get the density, right, we had to sacrifice parking. And so what that means is a much higher HOA budget to enforce parking because you can see that that will be a problem down the line. So, I mean, that kind of parlays into what we talked about on the last episode was development layout and amenities. But what will the city allow? So we know they're going to allow up to 120 units. What's the most effective floor plan within that? What are some of the observations and lessons that you've learned as we've thought about floor plans and seeing them put into practice?
I think you need to diversify. I know some areas we've done 2-bedroom units, we've done 1-bedroom units, we've done 3 bedrooms, we've done townhome style stacked, but be diverse. If you want to stick with townhomes, then maybe see if there's a way you can do a 3 and a 4-bedroom townhome. Maybe there's a way you can do a 2-bedroom townhome, but give people options. If you have all of the same bedroom count, you're kind of tying your hands a little bit, unless that's needed in that specific area. Mm-hmm. But there are some people that say, I'd pay a little bit less to have 2 bedrooms. I don't necessarily need 3. Or, hey, I'm a single guy or gal and I just want 1 bedroom. So see how you can maximize that in your floor plan layout.
But I totally agree with you. Have variety. And you could have a couple different 3-bedroom layouts if 3-bedroom is the ticket and it makes sense for that location. But I know we've done projects where we have 3-story 3 bedrooms and that's all we had. If we would have had a 2-story 3-bedroom and a 3-story 3-bedroom, that would have made a huge difference. So have a little variety in there is huge. I agree with you on that.
You're going to feel that in your lease up. I think, let's say you do your analytics, right? We look at CoStar a lot. We've even gone into local apartment communities and talked to the leasing agent just to learn about what are they really seeing here. Well, one thing that you can tell is, oh yeah, I have no 3 bedrooms available until November. I have these 4 2-bedrooms available and we're running a rent special. What did the market just tell you there?
They need 3 bedrooms.
Yes, it's time for some 3 bedrooms and we probably don't need as many 2 bedrooms. And that's knowledge that you can look like on apartments.com or local rental search engines and you can see what people are charging. But wow, what a leasing agent tells you just off the cuff really does reveal a lot.
Very valuable.
It is very valuable.
And then taking it just a step further, if you really want to dig into it further, is understanding the city and either going to the meetings, or everything's online nowadays, is listening to those meetings and seeing and understanding, okay, what's coming in, what's getting approved, and what does that unit and floor plan breakdown look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen stuff where we've been under construction and we knew that on our heels was a big luxury Class A apartment community. And so it was tempting, when you hit the market with 200 units over a 6 or 8 month period, and you're under that pressure to get that lease up. Do I cut my rents? And sometimes that's valuable. Sometimes getting units rented at a discount to get stabilized is the most important thing. Live to fight another day. But other times, these tenants are going to start seeing units for $300, $400, $500 a month more than me. I got to stick to my guns, or I'm just leaving money on the table.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. Tell me. So we're talking about having a diversity of floor plans. I've got 72 3-bedrooms and I've got 45 2-bedrooms and 10 studios. I've got some garages for rent, maybe, right? We've got all that kind of stuff. So we have a diverse community. What are you thinking about when it comes to the actual layout and the flow of the units? What matters to tenants?
Well, one thing that we've learned, we typically don't attract the older couple, right? 55 and older. But especially if we put in a 3-story floor plan, are they going to want to lease that or rent that out? They're more likely to do a 2-story floor plan or maybe a 1-bedroom studio if we're looking for that demographic. But there's different things that you can learn when you understand just the area and who your target renter is going to be.
Yeah. Well, something on that point. We've done some of these 3-story townhouse style units, and they have a 1-car attached garage with a driveway. And we would do far less of those knowing what we know now. But I'm thinking of one project in particular that's close to a university. And because those things are 1,800 square feet, they're big units, and they get packed to the rafters with college students. So that actually works pretty well, floor plan. It creates a nightmare on parking, right? That's there's a give and take here. When you solve one problem, you might create another, and you have to be aware of that. But I think that if you compare that to some of the other projects we've done, we'd much rather have, because a 3-story unit, no matter how you do that, it doesn't flow very well. It's choppy. But there is a tenant that is purely concerned with square footage. They don't care about that as much. Whereas others say, I'll take 1,300 square feet, but I want it laid out better, right? And maybe I want a 2-car attached garage instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that 3-story model. So we did a floor plan back in the day that had a bedroom on the main level, and then you walked upstairs and it had the family room, kitchen, and then on the 3rd level were 2 more bedrooms. 2 more bedrooms? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 more bedrooms. Yeah. We also did a floor plan where the family room was on the main level. 2nd level was a master bedroom, a kitchen, and then the top level was the 2 bedrooms mm-hmm. again. Mm-hmm. And I tend to think that people really like the kitchen and the family room together. So some spin that we had to put on that was, hey, some people have used this master bedroom as another family room, and because the rooms upstairs were so large, they used one of those as a master and used the other one as an office or a kid's room, mm-hmm. or they used this one mm-hmm. on the 2nd floor. So be cautious of what you're doing there too. Think of how you would maybe want it and what flows the best. Because I think chopping that up was kind of unique, and some people didn't like it.
But even though it is a little bit choppy and more stairs, they're getting more square footage. Plus, they're getting that 1-car garage with not always, but usually a driveway parking spot, which can be huge compared to maybe other comps within the area that don't have a garage.
Yeah. Well, that's funny that you bring that up. You know, I'm in a deal right now in Phoenix. It's 32 townhomes. And to get the density that we needed, it needed to be 32 townhomes. But the city of Phoenix, who's driving me nuts right now, and I don't care if they're listening, driving me nuts, they came back and said, you cannot put garage doors on. The parking, because these are front-load 2-car garage units, or so they were designed, you can't put those on because you don't have enough extra guest parking throughout. So I'm thinking, so somebody rents this unit in this space that's like a garage that has a door into their unit. Anybody can park there? That's the dumbest thing I ever heard, right? Mm-hmm. I had some renderings done. I wanted, well, how's this going to look, right? I talked to a couple property managers, and we said, you know what? People rent apartments all the time where they don't have a garage and they park in an enclosed space. So we just conclude, we're just going to deal with it. And we don't think it's very likely that anybody parks, and we're probably going to assign it anyways. And you can't do it because we know they can park on the street too. But that comes down to the floor plan and the city and your density. So much of this, right, dictates what you can do. It's easy to nitpick properties that you see. I joke about that with my wife. We built a new house recently, and people can criticize a property, but yeah, you don't know the laws of physics and engineering and budget, right? Usually when something doesn't make sense, it's because you maxed out one of those and you can't go any further. But I guess we would add the city too. So we've got a diverse community. We talked about some of those different layouts. What about finish, right? How do we finish the inside of these units?
If it was up to me, I think everything would be LVT. More so because it's pet friendly.
What does LVT mean?
So it's luxury vinyl tile. It's a step up from vinyl flooring.
Like a rolled out,
yes,
cheap vinyl. Yeah.
So it's a step up from that. It will come in planks. Sometimes it does still come in a roll. It depends, but it's a thicker. When you're pulling your chair across it, it's kind of what I'm envisioning. I remember having linoleum in a house when I was growing up.
Snag the linoleum.
Yes, and it's like chipping it, right?
Can you believe linoleum was a thing?
No. And I can't believe when my parents built their house, they put linoleum in it again.
On purpose.
What the?
Yeah.
So LVT. So obviously it's not a wood floor, but it's more like a wood floor than a vinyl is.
Yeah.
Holds up a little bit better. But I think having pets, that could be a huge thing. The problem that you come to is LVT on stairs. I apologize. It can be done, but it is really costly. So that's one thing where you may just consider, I'll just put carpet on stairs. But I think that's a huge need, or at least in the common areas. I know we've been doing that a lot lately where we put it in the family rooms. It's obviously in kitchens and bathrooms. Bedrooms, you may still want to stick with the carpet, but I prefer it all the way through.
Chase?
I think the biggest thing is you really want to take a step back and put if you're not a tenant, some of us might be, but if you're not a tenant or if you're not renting, you have to take your mind there. What is the tenant looking for? And when I used to rent back in the day when I was single or newly married, I was looking at cost, right? And so understanding what the costs are going to be to lease it up, and then putting yourself in the mind frame of the tenant, because me personally, right, probably going to want some nice things, or the quartz, the granite, and sometimes that is going to make sense. That's what the tenant's going to want, or the stainless steel, the appliances. So it's just a balancing act, I think. Understanding what the tenant wants, where your rents are going to be, and putting yourself in their mind frame of what they're looking for. Does the crown molding really matter? No, that's why we've probably never done it. So some things aren't really going to matter. You're not going to see your money back for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Spending an extra $5,000 per door, does that give you another $100 or $200 a month in rent or not? I think it goes back to there's only so much a tenant is going to pay in a certain area. I think that's hard to tell. You know, people get into the value add apartment business, right? They're going to gut an apartment, and that's, you know, in a way that's a build for rent, right? You're just repositioning it. But how do you tell?
It's area specific.
Yeah.
And it's picking the brains and the minds of property managers, having a good property manager to say, okay, what are you seeing here? What are the tenants, what are they expecting? What are they used to seeing? What are they wanting to see in these units to get it leased up ASAP? And are they willing to pay X amount for this or that?
I also think, though, that sometimes if you have nicer upgrades, so if we're all building in the same community, and I fully upgrade my unit, and Steve does half the upgrades and Chase doesn't do any upgrades, at the end of the day, rent's relatively the same. They're going to pick my unit first. So I think having more upgrades does help get you leased up quicker, right? You have less vacancy. But also there comes that breaking point too, right? Where I can pay too much for upgrades and then I'm not even breaking even. Chase could be making more money on me, more money than me with no upgrades. But I think sometimes that comes into play. So knowing when enough is enough or what's too much.
Well, because too much also means more maintenance.
100%.
Right? You know, you go really nice and tenants just don't care about that stuff. They don't care about a lot of finish work and carpentry and things. They're just going to dent it and break it. I've noticed one that, and this may change, but we've not been doing two-tone paint, right? We just whitewash everything because the maintenance between tenant turns is so much higher that painter's time is double. He's got to mask off all of your finish work or your base and case. And then that's a problem, right? Those unit turns can be absolutely brutal. And to your point from a little earlier, when we talk about LVT flooring, Sherida, I've talked to a couple builders recently that say, yeah, we can put it on the stairs, but it's actually not as low maintenance as you think because there's so many cuts and pieces and tenants are tromping up and down those stairs that it's easier for it to come loose and frankly to slip right on the stairs. So what do you think? Is carpet on stairs a necessary evil?
I think it is. We just completed some townhomes for my kids, and I did LVT everywhere in the units, but on the stairs I did do carpet just because I wanted it to be a softer,
easier to deal with, change out, maintain. Yeah, but in that kitchen and in the bathrooms, you know, where there's liquid and there's more likely to be problems, LVT is a no-brainer. But what about bedrooms for LVT versus carpet?
Depends on the location. We learned that down in Arizona that it's pretty common to keep your shoes on, right? The tenant keeps their shoes on, and so it might make a little more sense to have the LVT or the hard surface throughout versus the carpet.
Yeah.
And the hard surface stays cooler than a carpet would. I know that sounds weird, but it does have it's a cooler, I mean, you're on the floor versus the carpet with the pad and keeping some of the heat in.
Here's a fun one. What about washers and dryers? So a lot of the areas that we go in, it's pretty common that the tenant brings a washer and dryer, right? And so there's some pros and cons to where, well, shoot, if you have a bunch of tenants bringing up these washer and dryers up the stairs, it's going to get real beat up, which is very likely. There's going to be a couple extra dents or who knows what. And so we've had some investors that want to bring in their own washer and dryer and provide that, I guess, extra upgrade or amenity for that tenant. But the same token, one of the things that we come back at is it could cause or lead to more liability for that owner or the investor if they provide their own washer and dryers.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's another thing to fix.
Yeah. So there's kind of a catch-22 with washer and dryers.
I know we talked to our insurance guy, and he had mentioned that the tenant's insurance actually covers more if something were to happen with the washer and dryer than the owner's insurance does.
Right.
So
There
that
it
was
is,
like,
yeah.
that was the big key for that. I just recently had a gentleman tell me that he wants to put TVs in his units. And I said, that is not a smart move.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that, and I think that's...
This isn't a hotel.
Yeah. Yeah. So with the washers and dryers, then we create another asset that you have to maintain. And then if it breaks, right, and it floods, then that's on you. Whereas most tenants have to get tenant insurance, and they're thus covered. Before we hang it up on this topic, let's talk about smart homes. Seems to be pretty standard across the board in new communities, at least.
We're starting to see that more and more. And smart home, what's going to be included in that? Well, you could have the keyless entry. You can have the camera on the doorbell where tenants can see who's at their front door from their phone. And then most likely some sort of a smart home panel within that unit.
Just like an alarm panel. And
And the alarm can be set up or not, but some sort of a smart home panel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thermostat.
Yeah,
And the
the
thermostat,
smart
yeah.
thermostat.
Yeah.
The other thing that's big right now too are the garage door openers. They have like that MyQ technology in them.
Yeah.
Like, so if you have, garage door opener that has that, that's kind of nice. You can do it from your phone as well.
And that's not as hard to set up as you would think, right? We have a specific company that a couple of the people that we do this with developed from ground up. However, there's a lot of companies that can easily go install this smart home package, a couple $1,000 on the front end. And whether you're building like a little duplex in your neighborhood or a giant project, you could have them come in and wire that and put that in. And you can usually monetize it. You can charge a little bit extra rent, say, hey, this is a technology fee, it's $50 a month. And usually from that panel, they can order, upgrade their Comcast cable package. They can subscribe to a security system because you're already hardwired for it.
Yeah, that makes it nice for people.
Okay. Well, thanks for talking about floor plans. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. And I think we should get a show email address. Preston, let's get a show email address so people can send in questions to the show. Having good ideas just live on the air. So thank you again for listening. Please subscribe on iTunes and follow us on social media. And as usual, check with your legal and accounting advisors for any advice that you need. This show is meant to be for educational purposes only. We'll catch you next time.